This is Danny Pepperseed for World of Reggae, and we're live from Milky Way in Amsterdam. I'm here together with Jacob from SOJA. Nice Jacob, welcome, welcome, you know. How's the vibe so far in Europe?
We're feeling really good. A lot of the shows, including this one, have been sold out, and the audience members that come know all the words to the songs and know the new stuff. And we turn on the radio and we hear ourselves. They're playing the song with Damian Marley a lot. And we're feeling good. It's been a good... We've only done 2 shows so far. There's a third one, but they've all been sold out and good.
All right, well, that's good news, you know. Well, let's talk about the album, you know, because the album was released a few months ago amid the Noise and Haste. Tell us a bit about, like what the album is all about.
Well, the album is basically about... A lot of the previous albums have been about one thing or another. So the one before this, Strength to Survive, was mostly about the environment. And the one before that, Born in Babylon, is how do we take the first, second, third worlds that we have in this world, how do we create one world, right? So it's all a first world. And this one, Amid the Noise and Haste, is saying amid all this noise and haste of economy and class and environment and everything that we have going on, maybe there's an easy solution in there somewhere. Maybe the thing we've been doing is using physical solutions. So if there's the war in the Middle East, we send weapons. And if there's a problem with the environment, we plant trees. And while all these things may make sense on the surface, maybe the real problem is underneath. We have a mental way that we have learned and taught ourselves. Like Nelson Mandela said, hatred is taught. You're not born with it, you learn it. And maybe this world that's based around competition and accumulation is something that we have created for ourselves. And maybe amidst all this noise and haste, the truth is inside of us. And maybe it's our mentality that's wrong. And maybe the way we see the other humans in this world as people that we need to compete against and win against and push down. Maybe we've been going about this completely wrong. And maybe a lot of these problems would be a lot simpler if we changed just a basic particle mentality or your brain's the way you process your information. And you do it on a really easy level. You do it by smiling at people. You do it by taking the time for people, being nice to people, and trying to generally help people, little steps at a time. It's kind of a long, long explanation.
Yes, well now, the album has been produced by Superdupe, so I want to ask you about him later on. But there's also like a lot of guests on the album. You know, you mentioned already the song with Damian Marley, Junior Gong, your song. There's also like contributions by Michael Franti of Spearhead. I saw Jay Boog. And I saw Colliebots from Bermuda, so that's really like a diverse type of artists. So did you really pick and choose those artists, or was it just like more like, you know, you met them on the road and it was more like a spontaneous thing, or that you explicitly choose them and use them for the album?
It's definitely a mix. You know, some of the artists the one thing that we don't do is we say, okay, we need a hit song, so we have to get so-and-so. Like, that's not really the thing. What we do is we say, this song would be nice if it had a collaboration, and I can really hear this person on this song because what we're talking about is this. So for the Damian song, the song is about being on the road for 150 shows a year, having enough success, already having too much fame, wondering why you stay out here on the road. When you're missing at home the birthdays and the weddings and the kids being born and the funerals and the holidays and all this really important stuff, it's like you weren't even there. You turn to the audience, you say, please remind me of what the hell it is I'm doing with my life, and they sing all the words to the song, and you instantly remember, wait a minute, maybe I'm changing the world, and maybe I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And this audience is my family, this is my home and my environment, and I should grow to be comfortable here. And we said, who started younger than us, who plays more shows than us? And we couldn't think of like nobody except, you know, what some guys came up with. Damian was the number one name that came up, and we said, okay, so we could understand this. And that's how we went down the line of the collaborations. Some of the people we knew well before we started, Jay Boog and Anohea. and Alfred the MC on Promises and Pills. These are all people that I know and that I spend time with. And some of them we were just meeting them for the first time by sending them the song, and everything in between. But the way that we picked them is if we thought that they could relate to the song and bring something more out of the song, either from a similar but different perspective or from a different but similar perspective. And a lot of them, all of them, I think, made incredible contributions. And I love hearing the songs after they're on it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good, because I had been playing the song with Damien last week on my radio show. This week, to kind of push the show, even though it was sold out already, so I didn't have to do that. But, Collybuds, I played the one with Collybuds. That's a real nice song as well. And you can really hear Super Dupe's influence because, well, let's talk about him because he started as a sound boy. From Kingston, going to Florida and setting up Black Chinese Sound, started to do production, and then all of a sudden, boom, he was making Billboard hits because John Legend got him, Bruno Mars, Rihanna, and all those other artists, Estelle from England, and then all of a sudden he was there. So he had been working with Damien already. So was he the one who suggested, hey, maybe we should get Damien because I know him already and, the liquor store blues? And
it was actually, it was Elliot, my manager, who was working on the Damien song. And Elliot is the one who, me and Elliot sit there and we listen to the song 100 times and then we say, all right, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm thinking. And Elliot reached out to the camp over there. Dupes helped with a lot of other stuff, though, for sure.
Yeah, so how was it to work with him? Because, this guy is now Grammy nominated. He even got awarded Grammys. So how's it to work with a producer like that?
It's good. We in SOJA, we try to put out one or two very roots kind of things, and then we try to put out something that's more polished, more to reach out and draw people inside. Because our music is not really supposed to be just for reggae fans or this kind of, we really want to make music that's for the people, all the people, because that's who we're trying to reach. This is what we're trying to help, and everybody should be involved, at least in the dynamic that I describe in the songs. I don't describe a system where only one kind of people is what you need to make the change. I'd always describe a system where you need every kind of people. We all deserve to be here, the people way up here, the people way down, there should be a way that this world can work with. So that's how we try to reach, and Super Dupes, Rihanna and Bruno and John Legend, and he can really take reggae without losing the reggae, but he can make it in a way that people really, the masses kind of respond to it. And I think that's what we, hopefully, what we achieved with this record is something that it's easy to play on the radio, it's easy to hear it and instantly kind of pick up on it.
Well, it definitely does fit with that sound he did with Bruno and with Rihanna and with John, so it is reggae, but it's not really like experienced as reggae by everybody, it's more like it has a poppy edge to it.
He uses some of the same tricks that they use, so like filters they put on things and ways they layer kicks and just little things like that. He knows how to do those things. But it was fun for him too, because he told me the whole time, he said, Jake, I'm learning, because he had never done a full album before. So this was 17 songs. And he had never done a live band before. Or maybe he has, but from what I understand, he's not done a live band. So he was working with, real drummers, real bass players, it was all the instruments are played by a human, and then he could go on top of that and put his layers and his arrangement and so it was fun for us, and I think it was fun for him, even though I was very annoying at times. I would call him like 10 times a day and annoy the hell out of him. But yeah, I've left him alone for about 3 months now, and I'll start calling in another couple months.
All right. Yes. Well, you just mentioned like SOJA is not really per definition like a reggae band. Of course, like you are labeled as reggae, but with influences from rock, rap, a lot of other stuff. In your bio, I noticed that you have been touring a lot with acts like Dave Matthews Band, Incubus, those type of acts. That those are not really the typical acts that a reggae band from Jamaica would ever tour with. So what was your experience? Because apparently like you're from the U.S., so those are U.S. bands as well. So you're probably more used to that sort of music than a typical Jamaican reggae band would be.
Sure. I think the thing about us, that is the most reggae parts about us are the drum and bass is reggae, the skank is reggae, or the chop or the chuck or whatever everybody calls it, something different. But the upbeat is the same. The drum and bass sounds like roots reggae, and the lyrics are about changing the world.
Message music.
And that's kind of the most reggae thing that we do, is when you write the lyrics down on a piece of paper and you say, stand up and find your own way, or sit down and wait for your turn, follow your vision blindly, or just become the vision of someone, remove the shackles that never really fit you at all, or keep running with that metal on your feet until you fall. So that's like the reggae part of us, is to tell people that this world is a changeable thing, and these situations we've worked ourselves into and these corners we've worked ourselves into aren't necessary. That was my favorite thing that Bob Marley and everyone who came around that era did. And when we were recording the album, Inner Circle, Roger from Inner Circle, we recorded at Circle House. And Roger said, "You guys think you can change the world, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, And he was like, "You can." He was like, "You think that your music, your microphones are like your weapons, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "They are." He said, "Inner Circle, you are who we were in the 70s." He said, "We went out to change with Jacob Miller. We went out to change the world, and we knew that our instruments were our weapons." And I think maybe that's what guys like that from that era see in us, is that we do believe that this music is definitely going to change the world, and we don't see any other way about it except that it is. But like you said, I mean, Metallica and Wu-Tang Clan and Cypress Hill and Nirvana and Rage Against the Machine, and these things are all major influences on the band. But even with those bands, you see a common thread of they were out to kind of change the world. Wu-Tang Clan wanted to change the world. The GZA, particularly from Wu-Tang Clan, he changed at least my world. That's the best MC I've ever heard. And Rage Against the Machine was out to change the world, and Nirvana, in their own way, was out to change the way people thought. And so maybe content-wise, yeah, we do try to work in a lot of stuff. And then all the riffs that we grew up on, like you said, a lot of them were rock. A lot of it's distorted guitars. The drummer listens to almost all hip-hop. The bass player listens to a lot of dancehall reggae. So when you hear the dancehall lyrics, it's all from the bass player. Both horn players, one is Venezuelan, one is Puerto Rican, so they listen to all this Latin stuff. And then there's me. I listen to all these singer-songwriter type of people who have a revolutionary kind of aspect to it. So and then all of us think that Bob Marley and the Wailers is the greatest band that ever lived. So you take all those people and you put them in a group, and then you get SOJA. Yeah.
Well, that's a funny story because I'm not exactly sure where exactly in the U.S. you are from, because I thought you were all from D.C. But I also heard you're from Virginia.
Yeah.
But those are more to say the countryside in the U.S. So it's not really like an area where there's a lot of Jamaicans, a hub like New York or Florida or Miami.
It's not as many as Miami. And no, it's not as many as New York, but D.C. is a diamond, and then during the Civil War, the bottom part, when Virginia seceded from the North, the bottom part got cut off. So the part of Virginia we live in is the part that seceded to the South and never got joined back into D.C. So you look at D.C. now, the Potomac River cuts off the bottom of the diamond, and that's Arlington, Virginia. So you think Virginia, you think out with deer and trucks and shit, and Virginia is like that. But the part where we live is you don't. It would be strange to see that there. But yeah, DC is as far as Ethiopians go, it's much more condensed than New York or Miami. DC is referred to as Little Ethiopia by a lot of the Ethiopians, Eritreans, and Somalians, a lot of East Africans. And there is a big Jamaican population, which when I was a kid was bigger. And then as the city started to change, all the places that we used to go when we were kids started to disappear as the companies came in and bought up everything. So now it's very different. But when we grew up playing in DC, we would mostly play for Jamaicans and Ethiopians and that kind of crowd. There was a very strong, because Ethiopians love reggae music and Somalians and Eritreans. So there was an area called U Street and an area called Adams Morgan, and those were both the big spots that we would always play. So when I was growing up, it was very much that way, and it's changed a little bit, but it's still sort of like that.
Yeah. So besides Bob and the Wailers, of course, like which other reggae influences you had? Like which other artists you did listen to, and which tunes made you say, "Hey, yo, I want to make reggae myself as well"?
Yeah. Man, I mean, I've never met a group of kids who studied Jamaica and reggae and Rastafari more than we did when we were kids. Like I'll hear like SOJA and Roger talking about stuff when we're in the studio, and I know like everybody they're talking about, even though I've never been to Jamaica, because like I've read all these books about all these people. But the big ones for us, the first ones were normally most people's first ones was Bob, Peter, Steel Pulse, Inner Circle, Third World, UB40. So that's normally like the big Dennis Brown, all the ones that most people hear. And then as we studied Rastafari more and more and more, we moved to the bands that were more conducive to that. So early on it was Is a Vibration and Culture and Burning Spear, and all the old Studio One stuff and all the Shanachi stuff. And then when the dancehall revival was going on in like the 90s, like 96, 97, 98, and Sizzla and Anthony B and Capleton and Luciano were putting out all those incredible records with Faddis, when Faddis was just producing everything. Yeah. And it was like the greatest records anybody had ever heard. Rest in peace, Faddis. But those were just like, so that was the time that SOJA really galvanized as a band, was Praise Ye Jah and So Many Things and Where There Is Life and Black Woman and Child and all the Luciano stuff, all the Buju Banton stuff. That was when we started to play a lot, and we were getting out of college at about that time. And then that
was a very nice era musically, you know.
That was I thought it was back. I thought like the 70s was back, and it was there for a little while. And that was those records, you know. Praise Ye Jah was like, I mean, that's like one of the best reggae records I've ever heard, and I always hope that stuff starts coming again. And these days you hear it start to come again. You know, you hear Jesse Royal, and you hear Chronix, and you hear Protege, who's playing here. Was it?
He will be in about a month. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And you hear these records, and you're like, all right, this might be coming back. But we were always a blend of that kind, and then the Bob Marley kind, and then whatever other weird stuff that we listen to. A lot of distortion normally.
All right. Well, now you just mentioned him already, and you know that's probably like a comparison that I can make between you and Michael Franti and Spearhead, because both you and Michael have an incredible legendary Jamaican engineer, you know. Like Michael as Bolby from Fat Eyes Productions, and you have like the Channel One veteran, Mr. SOJA Hamilton, you know. Yeah. How is it to work with SOJA, and why did you particularly ask him to be your engineer?
I think parts of this are necessary, you know, like we always want to tie into what was happening in Jamaica when we were during the birth of reggae, and SOJA can tie into that. And it's also important for us to always tie into what's happening now in reggae, and Super Dupes helped us with that. And those are the things that we always try to check for and make sure that we have kind of the right people going around and saying, you know, what about this and, you know, what about that. SOJA, we actually found the last time we were in Europe on an opening band tour, we were opening for Gentlemen and the Evolution. And we played this show here. We played Melkweg, or Milky Way. And SOJA was brought along to join Gentlemen's crew just for that tour. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
And this was Gentlemen's green room that time. I was like way down the hall and some other. But after the tour was over, SOJA was going home, and SOJA had been doing some mixing with us too on the tour. And every time he would help us with the sound, like people would come up and they'd be like, "Yo, you guys have never sounded that good, and you should." So when the tour was over, I asked him what he was doing. He said he was going home. I said, "Did he have anything lined up?" And he said, "Not at the moment." And I said, "Do you want to come to a SOJA tour?" And we were still in a van at that point. We were in like a 15-passenger van. And he played ball, dude. He went along with it. And he said, "Okay, let's do it." And then shortly after that, we had a tour bus. So we only had to do like one short van tour. And then he was in the bus after that. And that was kind of when SOJA was starting to sort of take off. Thanks to some of those tours, in particular the Gentleman Tour and the tours we were doing, like you said, with 311 and Dave Matthews and Incubus. And so that was around the time that SOJA started, and I think that was 3.5 or 4 years ago, and it's been SOJA from then on with SOJA.
Yeah, you know, a real great engineer. You know, he mixed, recorded, and produced some great stuff like in Jamaica. You know,
Yeah.
Channel One days,
Yeah.
one of the best studios or best sounding studios in Jamaica ever.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's good to see that you guys pick him up and you know, bring him on the road. You know, because
We need
it's really good, you know, to have so much knowledge and experience,
we need that guy.
and use him to
Well,
his full levels.
When
You know.
you said you wanted to interview him, I said that's good because he's the most interesting person in this group. But it's true, you know, like he's a big part of why we just call him Papa, you know, because like that's the guy, you know, and he's been there and he's done it, and he shows us pictures of him with Allie Campbell when they're 25 years old, and with so, you know, and him and Dennis Brown and whoever the picture's with, and he doesn't brag about, you know, SOJA, he doesn't brag about anything. He's humble to a fault sometimes, SOJA, if there is such a thing. But yeah, he's just another one of those pieces that's come into the thing and fit perfectly, and we wouldn't change it for nothing.
All right, well, well, let's keep it with this. You know, like thanks for your time.
Sure.
All the best on your tour. Where are you gonna be in the next few weeks?
We do a lot in a short period of time. So we did London, Paris, and then tonight in Amsterdam, and then 4 more France shows, 2 Portugal shows, maybe 3 or 4 Germany shows, Switzerland, Poland, Czech Republic, Spain, 2 shows, Italy. And we get to play Ireland for the first time, and a lot of us are Irish, so everybody's very excited about going to, I mean, not Irish anytime soon, but a long time ago. So everybody in the group with green eyes can't wait to go to Ireland and to see what's going on. Everybody's going to have freckles. We're very excited that we'll fit in with all these people with freckles. But it's our first time, and the show's already sold out. And that's the last show of the tour, and we get to do 2 days off in Ireland after that, and we're going to play golf right next to where it was invented, and drink Guinness. And actually Jim Fox, our recording engineer from way back, who is still our recording engineer,
Lionel Fox Studios,
Fox,
yeah.
which is DC. He's meeting us there for the show with his wife, and we're going to have a couple days off with SOJA and Jim together again in Ireland. So that'll wrap up the tour, and then we go home. I just built a brand new vocal booth in my house, so I am going straight into the studio when I get back to start the new record, and then we'll be South America, and then home for Thanksgiving, and then South America, Central America, and then home for Christmas, and then Japan and parts of Asia and Australia, and then home for more recording. And then I think we may have just announced our first Jamaica show at the Jazz Festival. And then Puerto Rico and the rest of the Caribbean. And then home, and then finish the new album, and then...
So actually, like, you're going on a world tour.
I've been on a world tour for like 6 or 7 years. And every time we go home, we make a new record. And then we go back. And that's what we've been doing. And that's what that song, Your Song, is about with Damian Marley. We were like, dude, who can understand this shit? So most people go home and they sit there for like 5 months, you know. And we go home and we just start the new one, whatever it is.
Start it all over again.
Oh,
you know?
absolutely. Yeah, we got to keep it going. I mean, we're building momentum right now, so I don't think any of us feel like the time to slow down is anytime soon.
Well, it's good to hear that, especially for the fans, that there is like a lot to look out for, especially like fans all over the world. So,
Sure.
well, thanks a lot. And well, actually, this is before the show, so good luck tonight on stage.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one. Are you gonna be there?
yeah, we're gonna be here.
All right.
You know?
Are you gonna be there? Get some shots of the show. All right.
We will.
Thank you all very much for supporting us over the years. This is that kind of band where we don't necessarily click on a radio scene or on a TV scene, or we don't really know where we fit, and nobody can ever figure it out. You know, is it a reggae band? Is it something else? Is it? And you are the people who put us in the place where we fit, and where we fit is just being ourselves. And thank you all for your support, and we'll keep supporting y'all. Thank you.